I get this all the time. Somebody comes to me from work, last moment, hands me some sort of a messy, bloated PowerPoint deck and says, "Hey, can you do your magic?" And I think what they really mean when they say something like that is, can you save this disaster of a presentation without having to change every single slide? And the truth is, yeah, I can. And that's because PowerPoint has this one feature, this one trick that makes you look like an absolute legend. Learn it. Use it well. And soon, maybe you'll be the one that they come looking for when they need a little magic. In fact, if you master this one feature, your coworkers might just come to you and say,
"You're a wizard, and a thumping good one, I'd wager, once you trade up a little."
This video is all about the Master Slide, what it is, how it works, and how to use it to magically transform any presentation just from one location. No hacks, no plugins, just an underused feature already available in PowerPoint. I'm going to explain it all in 15 minutes or less here on the Slide Hustle. Stay tuned. Well, if you've been to the Slide Hustle before, let me take a moment here to welcome you back. And if this is your first time visiting, please take a moment to subscribe. I'm just finding out that people are not necessarily aware of this, but subscription is free. It just lets you know when I've got new videos out there, so that way you can check out new content. Now today, we've got a very special video planned. Today we're going to be talking about the magic of the Master Slide. And here's the big idea. You see, the Master Slide is kind of like the central command center for the design of your presentation. It's where you can take a moment to define defaults like your font choices, colors, your background elements, and even your logo placement, but it's done all in one place so it can be repeated across all your slides without having to rebuild all that over and over and over again. Now, in order to get us started with understanding how a master slide works, I've built a couple sample slides to give you an idea of where we're going. These slides are basically some layouts for a fake presentation that I might have to do for a client. In this case, I'm going to be using my Slide Hustle logo, but notice a couple of other elements here. This is meant to be a title slide, so we have our title, Build Smart, Not Hard, and there's also a little copyright disclaimer information down at the bottom. In essence, I'm building a slideshow that has a couple different layouts that I can reuse over and over again. So I may want a blank layout like this. Maybe another blank layout that just has some basic information like that copyright and possibly a slide number in the corner. And then again, a couple of generic layouts just to make things easy for the build later on, like some text with an image right next to it, or another version of the same, but maybe this time I'm quoting somebody. I also might want to present multiple topics on one slide, sometimes 3 topics, sometimes 4 topics. And let me take just a moment here to point out that each of these slides was built separately. Every single slide has a background, some text element, but ultimately this is just a layout that I built slide by slide. And confession, this took maybe about an hour or 2 to build. And that's what I'm trying to do, is cut down on that time. Right now, I'm only dealing with a handful of slides. But what happens when I come to the end of my presentation build and I'm looking at 40, 50, maybe even 100 slides? And then suddenly my client says they want to change the font or change a color. That becomes an insane amount of work to have to do, and the master slide helps you do it all in just a few seconds. Long story short, it's not just faster, but it's clean, it's smart, and it's way more professional. So back to the primary piece of advice here, you want to build smart, not hard. I would ordinarily do all this development inside the master slide area, so that way the time spent doesn't have to be repeated again later. But for demonstration purposes, I thought I'd give you an idea of what the concept was for these layouts, and now we'll move over to the master slide area to recreate all that and show you how it's done. Okay, just to show you everything from the beginning, this is a brand new PowerPoint presentation. The master slide can be found in your upper ribbon. Your main menu options sit up at the top here, and we're going to click on View. And then when the ribbon opens below, we're going to click on the button labeled Slide Master to open up the feature. Now, I'm going to take this sidebar over here and I'm going to expand the view on it a little bit so it's just a little bit easier to see. And now we can dive in and start taking a closer look. So let's begin with a couple of quick terms just to make sure that we're communicating clearly. The larger slide up at the top here is considered to be the parent master slide, and everything underneath of it will be a little baby slide that reports up to the parent. That becomes very important later. I would like to create all this from the beginning, so I'm going to delete all this so we can start over and show you a really true lesson on how this works. So here it is, master slide completely blank. And just try to keep in mind that when it comes to the parent slide, the only thing that you're putting here are the items and the elements that you want to absolutely appear on every single slide, even all the baby slides, without exception. Now, I can tell you right now, one of the things I definitely want is a little bit of my layout information. For instance, my layout had a customized background that I definitely want on every slide. So I'm going to copy that and paste that over here right now. I have a few more elements that I want to paste in here, and then I will be able to kind of continue. So bear with me just a second while I paste those in, and we will pick it up from there. So the Slide Hustle logo is not on the parent slide, it's on the baby slide, and that's for good reason. I'm going to shrink this down, and I'm going to use it as a bit of a logo here, but I'm going to tuck it in right here over in the corner. So this is where we can establish the difference between parent slide and baby slide. If I'd placed this logo on the parent slide, it would show up on every baby slide without question, without fail. However, putting the logo on the one baby slide I has allows me to control when the logo appears. It can appear on some of the layouts, none of the layouts, or different layouts depending on how I want to work with my build. The beauty of this is I can duplicate it. So I'm going to duplicate this layout, add a couple more elements in, and we'll be able to continue from there. Now, if you remember from the default master slide, there were some placeholders that were built into the master slide automatically. Let's show you how to add those in. Up at the top ribbon, there's an area called Insert Placeholder, and a little button has an arrow next to it to expand and see your various choices. Now again, these are templates, placeholders if you will. So I'm going to put in, say, some text content, and I'm going to draw that in right here. And now I get a placeholder for text. And this is a really interesting thing that's going to be very handy when we go back to our regular view and start adding in some more elements. But for right now, I like that content just like that. And maybe I want another element added in there. Insert a placeholder. And this time, a picture. Now, the thing I like about the picture placeholder is that you do have some choices here as well. I'm going to put in a rectangle because that's the frame that I wanted to fit in. But if you come up here to edit shape, you do have options to make that a circle frame or a rounded rectangular frame, anything you want to do. The square works for me for right now, so I'm just going to keep it as is. And I'm going to place it in a place where I think the layout looks the best. Okay. The only thing that's really missing from here is I would probably like to have some sort of a title. So one more time. I want to come back to Insert Placeholder. I'm going to insert a piece of text and again draw in the area I want it to occupy. All right, so that's what I got here. Now what I don't want is all this additional text here. I don't need that. Again, this is just going to be a title. So if I don't want it to show up as a bullet point, I've got to make sure that I change that. So up here, my text, I'm going to go to home. I'm going to get rid of that bullet point, and I'm going to change the font to my title font that I like to use, which is Impact. And just to make sure it's clear what I'm doing there, I'm going to put in title, grow it to the size I want. Now I have a second layout I want to work on right here, and I want to change things up a little bit. Maybe I don't want the logo on this slide, but I do want a couple of other pieces of information. So maybe we're building that quote slide I showed a little bit earlier. We'll need a couple of elements added in then. Okay, so let's add another picture in there. A placeholder there, just like so. And I'm ready to move on. Now, take a look up at the top here. You want to be careful what you're clicking on as you move on here. If you click on Insert Slide Master, what you're going to do is establish a new parent and then a whole new set of baby slides underneath of it. Not necessarily what you want unless that's part of the plan. Okay, I've got just about all my elements added in here. Let's just take a quick little look and review what we've set up. My parent slide, up at the top, has a couple basic elements, a background texture and some decorative lines to kind of hold all the information inside the center there. My baby slide right below it is very similar. The reason I keep this though is because I always like to have a blank slide available for a layout just in case I want to kind of go off book or off script and create something original, or even just have some place to experiment a little bit with some layout concepts and ideas. After that, I have something that's a little bit more structured and formatted with a title, some text holders, picture, and of course our little logo down at the bottom. Something similar in our second layout. I've got a third layout that allows me to discuss 3 topics, and then another one that allows me to put in 4 topics, including placeholders for some pictures up at the top. And again, all that was accomplished by going under my Slide Master menu, clicking on Insert Placeholder, and just choosing from the list. Now that's it. I am done. I'm going to go ahead and come up at the top, close my master slide. All those layouts are now available under the Home menu by clicking on the Layout option. And using this little drop-down menu, you can see all the layouts that we created in that master slide area. Just pick whichever one you want, and you run with it. So here's an example of one of the layouts we created. And because we added placeholders, we can come in here and make changes. The title can be customized to the real title rather than the placeholder we used before. Clicking on the placeholder for a picture will simply pull up a file menu and allow you to choose an image. We also have a placeholder for text here. I like to just throw something in there really quick, just so I have an idea of how big that text is and whether it needs to be resized or recolored or something like that. And now I can move on and take a look at adding a new slide. So up at the top, click on New Slide. We get our generic layout, and we can change that layout as we see fit. Now again, notice what's happening here in my little preview area. This seems like slide 3 is a blank slide, but it's not. I just have placeholders for various topics, and they will show as blank until I start filling them in. So if I make this, I don't know, maybe our 3 topics are colors. So we'll make this red, blue, and green. You can see now that information is starting to populate on the slide preview area. Now, just because you set this up doesn't mean you don't have other options. Each layout and each slide can have its own personality. You can even delete all these placeholders and start over with a blank slide from scratch, if that's what you choose to do. But bear in mind that anything that you place on the master slide, logos, footers, these backgrounds, they can't be moved and they can't be deleted by accident while you're editing your normal slides. It's kind of like putting guardrails on your design and making sure that you don't delete anything that you know that you would never want to delete. Again, a logo is a good example of that. So here's the big takeaway here. Master slides aren't a hidden feature, they're a power move in design. They save you time, they enforce your brand consistency, and you make all your work look very polished even from the first draft. So stop building one slide at a time. Use the master slide and you build smart, not hard.
That was bloody brilliant.
Now if this helped, hit like, don't forget to subscribe, it is free, and you can get some more quick wins from the Slide Hustle. Also, let me know in the comments which PowerPoint trick that you would like to master next. I appreciate your time, I really appreciate your attention. I hope to see you back again sometime at the Slide Hustle. Take care.